Skydio stands at the forefront of autonomous drone technology in the United States, innovating with advanced AI to deliver drones tailored for law enforcement and governmental applications. Established in 2014, our expertise spans AI, robotics, and electrical vehicle technologies, enabling us to craft the most intelligent flying machines that enhance public safety and operational efficiency. Hey, welcome back to Policing Matters on policeone.com. I'm your host, Jim Dudley, and we've got a great show about drones today. Drones as first responders and some real unveiled, exciting news from the drone industry. Hey, is your city even flying drones? Are they investigating drones as first responders, the DFR? In today's staffing climate, I cannot understand why every agency in America isn't investigating the use of drones as first responders. In September of this year, I attended one of 2 days at the Skydio Ascend 24 conference, an event in Santa Cruz, California. What a blast. What an event it was. Although I was only there for 1 day, I was amazed at the state of drones in policing today. Look for upcoming episodes as I speak with law enforcement representatives from Oklahoma City, Denver, Colorado, Baltimore County, Maryland, Flagler, Florida, Pasco County, Florida, and Chicago, Illinois. Great stuff. All right, today I'm speaking with Skydio CEO and co-founder Adam Bry. Adam's been flying since he was 5 years old and has been in aviation, robotics, and drones ever since. Skydio is now celebrating its 10th year with the release of some exciting additions to its X10 drone platform. I talked with Adam at the Skydio campus, not too far from where I live, and he spoke of the upcoming developments that were unveiled at the Skydio Ascent event. And at the time you told me about them, Adam, it was top secret. And I was gathering all this information and video, and then you said, yeah, but you can't use it. So great to see it in Santa Cruz. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here to now be able to talk about the full picture, the drone, the dock, and DFR command.
Yeah, so you must be recovered by now. I mean, you were there for the full 2 days. I'm sure you were gauging and getting ready up a couple of days before.
Yeah, I mean, these events are super fun for us. It's a really big production, and there's a lot of product pieces that come together. Obviously, our whole field team is there as well. But the most exciting part is getting to see all of our customers in one place and meet with them and hear their feedback on what we're showing and what they're doing with their products and what they want to do more of. And so it takes a lot of energy, but it's also a real energy building event for us.
Yeah, well, you sure brought out all the bells and whistles. And as they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And you had some great videos, but you had some practical applications people could try flying drones. They saw the capabilities. You had this gigantic wind and rain configuration up on stage, dramatic, lots of amazing things. I've been calling them nests for like 3 years now. And I met and talked with you at the Axon conference in Miami Beach earlier this summer. And you showed me how you're planning to use them in Miami Beach. Tell us about the concepts and the potential with docks.
So there's two ways you can look at it. From a technology perspective, there's a lot of pieces that come together. You've got an autonomous drone, you've got a docking station, you've got connectivity and cloud management. But I think it's actually more interesting and more correct to look at it from the other angle, which is how are people using it? And the use is really simple. It's just to get the sensor exactly when and where you need it really quickly with no friction. And it takes all this technology to deliver that. But that's the ultimate goal. And actually, the better technology the technology gets, the lower the friction is on the other side. And I think that's the real power of it. Like, I think there's just no reason that you shouldn't be able to get immediate real-time aerial intelligence over any situation, any emergency, any 911 call, any fire, to make better decisions. And so people have been doing things like this for years, but I think we're finally in the position to make it all work together to really make it a low friction sort of standard operating method for how law enforcement works.
Yeah, for sure. And the use of drones has evolved over time, the years that you're talking about. But I think the curve just went straight up in the air just the past couple of years, from pilot operators with their little handheld sets with very
Yeah.
limited capabilities to
Yeah.
now all the amazing things that you're doing.
Totally. Yeah. I think that there's been this journey where it's really a lot of like pioneering visionary folks within the public safety community have started essentially bringing their hobbyist drones to work and proving that you can do more and more useful things with them. And that's kind of built a following around it. And those programs, a lot of those programs have gotten up to meaningful scale, but there's enough critical mass there and enough positive impact that I think it's sort of flipped, where we're seeing mayors and police chiefs just say, this stuff is amazing. We want more of it. We want it all over our city. And we're now at the moment where the technology is good enough, I think, to make those two things come together.
Yeah, and one of the breakout pieces of news that you had was that NYPD unveiled beyond visual line of sight operations, where in the past you had to have a drone operator and then an observer. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the existing paradigm within regulations for the last 5-10 years has been basically built on this notion of you need to have an expert pilot flying the drone and they need to have visual line of sight to that drone. And I think that was a very reasonable operating paradigm for the kind of historical state of technology. What NYPD was able to do was get this waiver from the FAA that enables them to fly beyond visual line of sight across most of New York City without needing to have a visual observer there watching the drone. And it's a really exciting milestone because that is one of the key pieces that needs to exist for this vision of ubiquitous DFR to be possible. And so NYPD is on the leading edge of this, but we've worked with 40 other customers to do similar kinds of things, and we're seeing more and more. We're seeing this become a more and more repeatable motion. So that's definitely one of the critical ingredients to make this overall capability reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the demos I talked a little bit at the beginning of the show about the drone, the X10 on stage, where you turned up the wind and then you threw in some rain. I mean, to some really extreme
Yeah,
lengths and wind conditions, rain conditions. It goes to show that
yeah.
drones are not limited to just fair weather conditions. Was that an issue before? Were people calling for this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's just sort of obvious. The more conditions you can operate in, the more impact you're going to be able to have, because there's some useful work to be done during normal daylight, fair weather, but plenty happens at night. Plenty happens when the weather isn't good. So it's hard from a technology perspective to make it work in all these different conditions. And we love giving live demos, and that was kind of a cool live demo to really show and prove that it can handle it. And it's been, our earlier generation drones couldn't fly in the rain. Our last generation dock only worked during the daytime. So, there's a lot of pieces that have had to come together to make it work. But now we've got the complete thing that's robust: day, night, wind, rain, all of it.
Right. And like a lot of people, my initial impression of drone usage was really limited, thinking about just the law enforcement aspects of it, maybe some search and rescue, maybe some surveillance. But you had a large contingency of people showing how the drones and features can be used in monitoring critical infrastructure, man-made and nature, hazardous events. What's
Mhm.
been the feedback? I mean, I could think back to some of our disasters, Katrina and certainly 9/11, and how drones could have really been useful then. What's the feedback you're getting?
Um, Look, I mean, they're transformative tools in a lot of these emergency disaster response situations. We actually showed an example at Ascend, where one of our customers, Alaska DOT, flies our X10 drones in response to natural disasters and storm events in Alaska, and it basically takes their response time from weeks or days down to hours or minutes, because they can pop a drone in the air. They can stream that data to HQ, so people know exactly what's happening. They know exactly what supplies and equipment they need. The people on the ground there can do search and rescue operations. And we're actually, unfortunately, seeing this happen now in North Carolina in response to the hurricane. So, our customers and our team is on the ground now. They have drones in the air 24/7, basically doing search and rescue operations and helping with with disaster management. I think in many ways it's sort of obvious, but drones have already become indispensable tools in these kinds of situations.
Yeah, and that idea of just, using them in cities where you have linear line of sight and buildings and things like that. Now you're talking about use in suburban areas and rural areas with trees and canopies and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I have a cabin up north, and forest fires are a real thing. To be able to get a drone in there and really get a picture back to fire command to tell them exactly where it is and the scope of it, so important.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And you alluded to this, but it spans multiple industries. I think in law enforcement and public safety, it's a little bit more obvious, but a lot of what an energy utility deals with can have sort of an emergency response sort of nature to it, where there's a storm event, they need to ensure the integrity of their assets, of their distribution and transmission networks. And so there's actually a lot of parallels between different industries. We see this within our customer base. Law enforcement's a really important market for us, but so is energy utilities, so is departments of transportation. And some of what they want to do is different, but there's a lot of commonality, which is ultimately why the product can be so valuable in all these different kinds of industries.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've seen condensers and gas and electrical equipment that's overheating. The heat sensors on the drones picked it up, fed back the information, and they can lock it down right then and not wait for an explosion or some event to respond to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I'd like to talk about how agencies are using their drones. We're talking about a few of the capabilities, but first, I'd like to take a moment and thank our sponsor. As we explore the future of law enforcement technology, let's focus on Skydio, a leader in U.S. autonomous drone innovation. Headquarters in San Mateo, California, and manufactured in Hayward, California, Skydio uses cutting-edge AI and robotics to develop drones that significantly boost the operational efficiency and safety of law enforcement agencies. Trusted by industry authorities and supported by prominent investors such as Andreessen Horowitz and NVIDIA, Skydio sets the benchmark for quality and security in drone technology. Discover how Skydio's advanced aerial surveillance capabilities are revolutionizing policing across the nation at skydio.com. That's Skydio, SKYDIO.com. And we're back, and I'm speaking with Adam Bry, the CEO and co-founder of Skydio. So, Adam, I spoke with Captain Haya from Chicago PD, as well as Captain Andy Denbo from Pasco, Florida. Two extremes, one a packed city environment and the other open space, swamps, small towns, hundreds of miles of open space. And they both use drones to their advantage. Are these things out of the box, one size fits all, or are there some modifications you make for those certain situations?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, the reason why it works is because there's a huge amount of commonality between all these different geographies and applications in terms of what you need from the drone. Like, everybody wants really good sensors. Everybody wants good wireless performance. Nobody wants the drone to crash into anything. You want the software features to be able to share the data that you're getting with other people in your agency. And so there's definitely a lot more in common than there is different. The things that are different, I think, tend to show up a little bit more in the software layers and the integrations. One example of this in big cities, we see a lot of customers that have very sort of bespoke IT environments where they have a lot of custom developed software that they're using as part of call and dispatch management and information sharing and whatnot. And you see less of that in the smaller agencies in more rural areas. And so we've built our system to be flexible on those dimensions. The APIs are pretty standard. You can pull and integrate the data in different ways. But the vast majority of how you actually use the drone and what you're doing with it is quite similar. And a lot of the core technologies generalize quite well. We've invested a lot in this visual autonomy system that enables the drone to fly and avoid obstacles and not depend on GPS. And that's just as useful under the tree canopy as it is flying in the urban canyon between buildings in Chicago, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I've seen the X2s and now the X10. large drone, and you've got the X10 dock. Early on in speaking with you, you talked about, the capabilities, and the guy has to get it out of the car and set it up and launch it. And then you got to get back and replace the battery. And it's really like the people are working for the drones. I think that's what
Yeah.
you said in your opening remarks. But how is the dock going to be different, this big X10 dock?
Yeah, so the dock completely changes the paradigm. And in my view, it's the way it should work. And I think we'll look back in 10 years and think it was crazy to have drones without docks. But basically the dock just provides full automation. So it's a network connected charging base station. It's weatherproof. So it just keeps the drone on site wherever you need it, ready to fly 24/7. And then you connect to the thing over the internet using our software. In public safety, we call it DFR command. And it gives you the ability to fly and manage and operate multiple drones remotely from a central location. So one of the analogies I used to think about this is it's a little bit like the transition from needing a sophisticated desktop computer that you have to like manage all the software on to just having a cloud server in the background doing useful work for us all the time. Like you and I are using a cloud server now to do this call, right? There's some server for Zoom that's managing all this. We're not even thinking about it, right? We didn't have to provision it. It's just off there doing its thing. And that's the way it should be with drones. Like if you have a 911 call come in, you've got a critical incident, you've got emergency, you've got some infrastructure you need to inspect. The drone should just be off there doing what it needs to do and telling you when it's got some useful bit of data for you. And that's fundamentally what the dock enables.
Yeah, and no joke when you talk about remote command. When I was at the campus in San Mateo, I saw an operator get a drone in the air, do some critical infrastructure around a facility review. And I asked him where it was, and he said it was in Colorado. So he was operating in San Mateo, California, I don't know, a couple thousand, at least 1,500 miles over into Colorado,
Yeah,
operating this drone. Amazing.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And in the context, one of the things that I think is just a very clear, very obvious, very powerful trend in law enforcement is people give it different names, but basically the real-time crime center, an operation center where you've got live data feeding in, you've got a team of analysts and operators who are processing that data and using it to assist people out in the field. And I think drones are fit very naturally into that paradigm, and I think likely over time become a centerpiece of real-time crime centers where the drones are distributed across the city or across the county or across the jurisdiction, but the operators can be centralized at sort of the information hub of the agency, managing them and then feeding the data that's generated back out to people that need it to make better decisions.
Yeah, for sure. And, you showed so many different applications. I was thinking myself of not only, I mean, there was a great example of the drone in the air that saw essentially an ambush being set up. This character's taking a gun out of his pants and putting it in a sock. And the officers would have never seen that on their own. I think about the other applications, not just for enforcement operations, but after the fact. Body worn camera is great, but it only shows what's dead in front of the officer.
Mm-hmm.
And so my son is my two sons are police officers in San Francisco, and I just saw a reconstruction of a officer involved shooting incident using bits and pieces of body worn camera footage. Now, a drone would really give you a better overall view, follow it down, see what the suspect's doing, see the officer's perspective, and their respective actions and reactions to the suspect. It's great to keep them safe, but again, in reconstruction after, when we're trying to be so transparent with the community,
Yeah.
this is great footage to show. Look, you guys talk about de-escalation, they're doing it.
Yeah.
The guy forces their hands, they shoot, and I mean, it ended as good as it could. So I think the drones would be awesome for that as well.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and it's something that we hear from our customers. Las Vegas Metro PD, one of our bigger customers, they're upfront that this is one of the key values that they see with their drone program. The sheriff there just has an incredibly impressive posture with respect to transparency with the community. They publish all the body camera footage after every officer involved shooting very quickly, and they view drones as like a key tool in that set of things they can do with their community, is to just very objectively show, like, here's the aerial perspective, here's what happened, here's what we did, and you can judge for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I appreciate the time that you've spent with us, but before we close, I have to ask, I was surprised to hear you bring up lobbying in the keynote, and I'm wondering what prompted that. I know, talking to our Homeland Security friends, they were talking about, changing from foreign drones. I know there are grants for that. What do you want law enforcement agencies to know right now?
Yeah, so it's, we debated whether we should talk about it. Ultimately, we decided to talk about it because it's basically it's a line of attack that our competitors have used against us, that we just think is unfounded. And, we're not afraid to address any sort of tough question from anybody. We figured we use the opportunity at the keynote to address it head on. So for all sorts of reasons, we certainly believe, and I think this is just general consensus now amongst the federal government, and anybody thinking carefully about cybersecurity, that it's not healthy to be dependent on our foreign adversaries for technology this critical. And I think there's a valid range of opinions on what the best way to deal with that is. From our standpoint, we're really just focused on trying to make our products as great as they can be. By a pretty wide margin now, we're the leading US drone company. And we view that as a serious responsibility to make these products awesome and make them useful for folks in public safety. And that's what we're focused on. There's a set of companies that are being disrupted by that. Companies that, certainly DJI, leading Chinese company, and their sort of network of resellers are now threatened by this kind of movement away from Chinese drones. And I empathize with that. It's difficult for people that have built their businesses around this technology. And they're to some extent looking for somebody to blame, and our name comes up. And I think that's somewhat misguided. So I wanted to kind of talk about it head on. But really the main point is that our focus is on our products and our customers. And the real opportunity, I think, is, as important as drones have been for the last 10 years, for the next 10 years, it's going to be factor of 10x more important and more impactful. And so I think it's a mistake to kind of get too anchored on the past and what has been. And the more that we focus on where we are and where we're going, I think the better off everybody's going to be. And I think where we're going can be 10x better than where we've been. There's sort of this next wave of autonomy technology. The dock is a key part of that changes usage paradigms. So we're very excited about the future, and most importantly, what we see our customers doing. I have to say, before we sign off here, I'm also interested. I want to ask you a question. So you've spent 30 years in law enforcement in San Francisco. You've seen and done a lot. You've seen technology evolve. I'm very interested in your perspective on what you think of this stuff. What impact do you see drones having? Where do you see it going?
Oh my gosh. I wish we had them before I retired, to the extent that we have them now. The applications in policing are endless. I spent a lot of time with our SWAT team, our special operations group, and then our rest of our city family of police, fire, EMS, public health. I met my wife. She was the director of epidemiology and disease control for San Francisco Public Health. And after 9/11, we were given a series of exercises for grants, for Homeland Security grants, and they essentially threw everything at us: dirty bombs and natural disasters, man-made, terrorism. And how did we have enough equipment? Did we have the training, the capability? What would we do? And so we really got a good idea of what we needed, and the possibilities of drones in all of those situations can only make us better. Just event management. We have in San Francisco, we probably have 300 planned events every year in a small city, 49 square miles, 850,000 people. But we have parades, we have festivals, fairs. We have a lot of events that might draw international attendance. We had America's Cup. We've had international soccer games, Super Bowls, World Series. And so, I hate to say it, but we've got, 7 great pieces of infrastructure as well that might be appealing to those who would intend to do us harm. So even the celebrations, I wrote an article after the Kansas City parade, after they beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl, but there was a shooting, and there was some indication that there were opposing gangs, or at least a couple of gangsters who were, mugging each other and maybe flashing their hardware at each other. And I don't know if you're aware of Zero Eyes, but I've had someone from Zero Eyes on, and the technology is any video feed that would show a firearm, rifle, pistol, shotgun, any kind of firearm, recognize it and immediately send it back to a real-time crime center or whoever was monitoring the event. And it might give us precious moments, minutes to getting there and squashing it before it became a mass shooting. And so, that kind of capability, this kind of technology, I think they're lifesavers. I think, like you said, 10x, we're going to see what they can do over the next few years. And in Chicago, I was really surprised to see ShotSpotter unplugged, but talking with the captain really encouraged that they were going to be using drones more. And, that was a pleasant surprise there.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, no, I really appreciate the perspective with your background and experience.
Yeah, thanks. All right. So any secrets that you want to unveil on the show? Or can you talk about anything that's in the hopper?
Well, look, I think we just did some very big product announcements, and from our perspective, this DFR story is now real. It's here. We have customers using it. So the things that I think you'll see a lot more from us and really from our customers over the next year is these things getting deployed at larger and larger scale, and then the impact that they're driving. Yeah. So as much as we've done to get to here, I really feel like we're just getting started on the most exciting piece. And the most exciting announcements are not, it's not the product and the technology, it's the deployments and the impact. And we talked about some of that at Ascend, but I think you'll see a lot more of it over the next year.
Yeah. Well, thanks what you're doing in the drone technology, the DFR forefront. And I got to tell you, you have really good people working for you. I met so many great Skydio people at the event, and look forward to seeing you all again real soon.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Take good care. Hey, to our listeners, I hope you enjoyed today's show. Drop me a line and let me know what you think. And check out the show notes where you will find links to Skydio and some of what they have to offer there. They've got some great videos and graphics and information for you. So drop me a line at policingmatters@policeone.com. And take good care, stay safe, and I hope to talk to you again real soon.